Mhm.
Right. So the Maimer begins with Atem Nitzovim Hayom Kulchem. And the Rebbe said this was early in base. This was like Sunday night in Parshas Nitzovim Vayelech, Borchai Elul. And this was in Tovshin Lametes. And it says in the note over here that they printed it in that time in Tovshin Lametes for Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Nitzavim Vayelech. So on that very Shabbos, they published this mimer. The Rebbe will explain over here on various different levels why is it important to enter into a covenant with Hashem before we go into Eretz Yisrael. The Yidden were about to go into Eretz Yisrael, so they went into a covenant, and the Rebbe will speak about different levels in going into Eretz Yisrael, what it means and how it can be interpreted in the various different levels in Torah, in people. As we will see, the Maimer will explain the various different madregas. Okay, Hanocha. Atem nitzovim hayom kulchem lifnei Hashem Alkichem Rosheichem Shivteichem Goimer. So you are all standing today. It's Moshe Rabbeinu saying to the Yidden, today he gathered them all together. He says, you're all standing today before Hashem Alikeichem. And he says the various different levels, Rosheichem, Shivteichem Goimer. And the purpose of gathering together is le'ovrecha bevris Hashem Elikecha Goimer, is to make you pass through in the covenant with Hashem, your God, Goimer, which means that before they were about to enter Eretz Yisrael, Moshe Rabbeinu gathered them all, and he says, we're going to enter again a covenant with Hashem Elikecha, le'avrecha bevris Hashem Elikecha. This is in the Parshas Rishon in Atem Nitzovim. And then the pasuk continues, and that is Beparsha Sheni. That's in Sheni, because the Rebbe gave the Maimer Sunday night. It was already Monday, which is Shir Limud Chumash HaChumash Yom Zeh. That was the portion. Sheni was the portion of the Chumash study for that day, for Monday. So what is the pasuk continues? It says, "V'loi itchem levadchem onoichi koires es abris hazois." Moshe Rabbeinu continued, "It's not just with you that I formed this covenant. Ki es goimer asher einenu po yimono hayom." He's making this covenant not just with the Yidden that were standing there at the time that gathered together with Moshe Rabbeinu, but also those who are not there today. With all the future generations, Moshe Rabbeinu made this covenant with them. The fact, as the Rebbe will say, and then the pasuk says there, "V'shov Hashem Elikecha Goimer," that Hashem, your God, will come out together with you, return together with you from the exiles, and that's in the Parsha Sheni of Nitzavim. And the Rebbe will say, because the fact that this is for all generations, those who are here and those who are not here, that means that the lesson that we learn from Atem Nitzavim is something which is important for all generations, that in all generations we have to sort of enter the covenant, as we see Moshe Rabbeinu makes this covenant with all of us. So the Rebbe says, "V'hinei parsha zu koirim la'olam koidem Rosh Hashanah." We always read the portion of Nitzavim before Rosh Hashanah. K'mashikosuv Rabbeinu Hazokin b'Likutei Torah, as the Alter Rebbe writes in the Likutei Torah, that the portion of Atem Nitzavim is always read before Rosh Hashanah. But the Rebbe brings down that this pasuk of Atem Nitzavim is actually the bracha that the Eibishter gives. We know that on Shabbos Mevorchim, Tishrei, we don't do the usual Birchas HaChodesh. The Shabbos that precedes every month, we make bracha for the Chodesh, but we don't do that on the Shabbos before the month of Tishrei. The last Shabbos of Elul, we don't make a bracha for the coming month of Tishrei. So the Baal Shem Tov says that the Atem Nitzovim is the Eibishter's bracha. And the Parshas Nitzovim that comes before Tishrei, before Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, before Rosh Hashanah, the Eibishter gives us a blessing. And that's the Atem Nitzovim Hayom Kולכם. That's the Eibishter's blessing. And that blessing gives us the power that we should be able to bless the rest of the month of the year. V'yadua Toiras HaBaal Shem Tov. It's known, the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov, She'atem Nitzovim, that when it says Atem Nitzovim, Zehu birchosoi shel HaKodesh Baruch Hu. This is the Eibishter's blessings. Shemevorech es Amoi Bnei Yisrael, who blesses his nation, the Jewish people, b'Shabbos Mevorchim, on the Shabbos of blessing. The last Shabbos, Shu HaShabbos, Ha'achrein the Chodesh Elul, which is the last Shabbos of the month of Elul. Bebirchas, the Eibishter blesses this last Shabbos, Bebirchas HaChodesh, the Chodesh HaShvi, with the blessing of the month of the 7th month. That's the blessing the Eibishter gives. And that's the Atem Nitzovim. Ubekoyach zeh, and with this power that the Eibishter bestows on the Yidden to bless them, Mevorchim es HaChadoshim d'chol Hashana, then the Yidden go ahead and bless the month of the entire year through that koyach that the Eibishter gave them. So since Atem Nitzovim is this major blessing, and this is the blessing which we take strength for the whole year, that means that this is something very important, that it's a very general idea, this Atem Nitzovim, because this is where all the blessings comes for the month of Tishrei, and eventually that's the blessings that we have for all the year. Shemizeh move on. So from this we understand she'inyan zeh the Atem Nitzovim goimer. This idea of Atem Nitzovim is a general, it's a general idea, it's a general theme, which therefore we need to elaborate. The Rebbe is going to explain it. But so what's the idea? What makes this so special, so general? The Pasuk explains what is the purpose? Why are we all standing today together? Kol Eser Hamadreges. And that includes all the 10 different levels. From the heads, from the tribes till the water chapters and the water draws, the one who draws the water, all the 10 levels that the Pasuk enumerates. Why are we all standing together? Lachodim ke'echad, we're united as one. Why? The reason is in order that we pass through the covenant of God, your God. Which means what happened here was as follows. Before the Yidden entered into Eretz Yisrael, that is the very first time. We read it every year, but the very first time that Atem Nitzovim was said was before they entered into the land. So before they entered into the land, there was a covenant formed for accepting the Torah. And this was in addition, this is in addition, besides the covenant Hashem formed with them at Chorev, at Mount Sinai. So already there, the Eibishter brought the Jewish people into a covenant. So this is an additional covenant that takes place before they enter Eretz Yisrael, that they are going to accept the Torah. Hainu, shemeduber kan al krisus bris meyuchedes shelifnei haknisa la'aretz. Now we're talking about a special covenant that is formed especially before we go into Eretz Yisrael. Before entering the land, we need a new bris. That's the bris. And this is something which is important to us today to know what that covenant is, to understand it, because this covenant was actually formed with us as well. As the Pasuk said before, it wasn't just with the people that were there at the time with Moshe Rabbeinu, but it was with all generations, Umikibon, and since, Shaloi itchem levadchem, Anoichi koires es habris hazois. It is not just with you alone that I formed this covenant. Ki im gam, but it also includes eis asher einenu poi imonu hayom, those who are not here with us today. So therefore, move on. We understand she'inyan hakrisas bris lifnei knisas ha'oretz. So we understand that this idea of making a covenant, forming this covenant that takes place before going into the land, this has a connection, is connected to the service from each individual, each one and one. Basically, we'll understand what it means to go into Eretz Yisrael, that we all have in a spiritual level to go into Eretz Yisrael. And when we go into Eretz Yisrael, we need to make a covenant, so that before we can enter Eretz Yisrael, we need to make a covenant. So in Ois Beis, the Rebbe is now going to explain what does it mean to go into Eretz Yisrael. And the Rebbe is going to base this on the various explanation in the previous parsha, because the previous parsha says, "V'hoyo kisavoy el haaretz." It'll be when you come to the land. So in that interpretation, when you come into the land, we find the interpretation of the Baal Shem Tov, we find the interpretation of the Rav HaMagid, and we find the interpretation of the Alter Rebbe, all discussing what is the idea of going into the land. So first we need to see and understand what's the idea of coming into the land on a spiritual level in Avodah, and then we will explain what is the idea of Krisus Bris. Base. So we'll understand this by introducing Behagdim Biyur Inyan Haknisa La'oretz Ba'avodah, to explain the idea of entering the land in the service of a Yid. What does it mean to, in the service to Hashem, to enter to the land, to enter to Eretz Yisrael? The Hinei Kesiv, because it's written, and this was the Parshas HaShavua, the Shabbos Sha'avra, that was the previous Shabbos Parshan. Shemin name is Baruch and Kula Yomim, from that Parsha, from that week, from that Shabbos, all days Shalach Reo that follows Shabbos. And since Chayel was on Monday, so it was connected to Chayel, to the Parshas Kisovei. Koil Yom Zeh Yom Chayel included this day of Chayel when the Rebbe gave the Maimer. So what does it say in the Parsha? It says, "V'hoyo kisovei el haaretz asher Hashem Alikecha noisen loch v'goyim." It will be when you enter the land that Hashem gives you. The Torah talks about Bikurim over there in the beginning of, that's the Parsha of Kisovei. But the Pasuk says when you come to the land. So this very interesting that the Rebbe Rashab told the Friedrich Rebbe about a teaching that he heard from the Baal Shem Tov. A teaching. This was many, many years after the passing of the Baal Shem Tov. The Rebbe Rashab is telling his son, who related this, about a teaching that the Baal Shem Tov explains the verse V'hoyo kisove el-haaretz. So the Rebbe says, Mavayir ha-Baal Shem Tov nishmos Eden. So the Baal Shem Tov, whose soul is in Eden, explains. And this is Behatoira shenemra al yidei kveit kedushas meidichome admur nisidarenu. In the teaching, in the Torah that was said by my father-in-law, the leader of our generation, Sheshoma me'oviv, he heard this from his father, kveit kedushas admur marashav, from the Rebbe Rashab Nishmos Eden, Sheshoma me'habal Shem Tov, who heard it from the Baal Shem Tov. What was the teaching? They heard like this. V'hoyo kisovoi el haaretz. So literally, tzovei el haaretz means when you come to the land. The word haaretz means the land, means when you come to the land of Israel. But the word haaretz comes from the root rotzen. V'hoyo kisovoi el haaretz means you come to a desire, you come to a rotzen. And you come to a desire, and also from the Lashon merutza, eretz rotzen merutza, which means run. You come to a desire, you want to run, you want to connect. That is kisavei al haaretz, when you come to a level that you want to run. V'hoyo kisavei al haaretz, in Yiddish, as du vesukumen zu dem Rotzen ha'elyon u'merutza, when you reach the supreme will and the running. How does a person reach that level to run? It's not something that he has on his own. He continues to explain the pasuk, Asher Hashem Elikecho noisen lecho nachla v'yirishto. That is, Hashem, your God, is giving it to you as an inheritance. How do you get that level of running and will to Hashem? That is, Hashem gave to you as an inheritance. B'yarashto, and you inherit it. We know that an inheritance, if you're just a child, you inherit on no level. Every Yid inherits it. But this is a matana milmailo. This is a gift from above, that the gift to have a rotzen, to have a running to Hashem. It's a gift from above. B'Yerusha b'kol echad miYisrael. This is an inheritance. Every Jewish person has this as a gift from Hashem, that his neshama, that the person runs and wants to connect to Hashem. So what is the job of a Yid? So the pasuk continues, v'yoshavta bo, darf sein die avoide in them. So what do we need to do with that will, with that running? What do we have to do? V'yoshavta bo, you have to settle it. Yoshavta bo, you should settle her. Does soll sein b'hisyashvus, this needs to be settled down. So take that running, that desire, and bring it down in a settled way. How? V'lokachto goimer v'samto batena. And you should take all the fruit, the pasuk says there, put it into the basket. Put it into the basket means what? The basket is the keli. Take all those yearnings, all the oiris, malbizayin the oiris in kelim. You need to dress up. This is all of the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. You need to dress up these lights, these oiris that you have, dress it up in the vessels. And then the pasuk says, "V'alachta el hamokim." You go to the place. What does it mean? People go to different places. They think that they choose to go to the place. They have a reason why they want to go there. But when you go to a place who inyan hashgacha pratis, It's the idea. It's by divine providence. Asher yivchar Hashem elikecha. God shows it. This is just translating all the words in the pasuk over there. You go to the place that God chose for you. Asher yivchar Hashem elikecha. That's why you end up where you are, is because Hashem chose it for you. As a Yid gate in an ort, saying in Yiddish, when a Yid goes to a place, is das nicht was geht. It's not that you're going, your decision, I'm going there. Nor mefirtim, but you are led. The hashgocha elyoina, the divine supervision. And why does a person come to a certain place? Why is he brought there? What does Hashem want from him? The hashgoch is azer kumt in an ort. When you come to a place, is the kavone. What is the intent? L'shakin shmei shom, to make Hashem's name rest there. Lefarsim elokus ba'olam, to publicize godliness in the world. This is the first recitation of the Baal Shem Tov by the Rebbe Rashab to his Friedrich Rebbe about the teaching. That this whole pasuk is talking about coming into Eretz Yisrael means you're coming to this run, to this yearning. You have to take that yearning and settle it into vessels, and then seemingly has another part to it, that when you go anywhere, it's not your own choice. Hashem chooses it for you. Everything is by divine providence. And what's the purpose? The purpose is l'shakin shmei shom, to publicize godliness where you are. That was the first time the Baal Shem Tov gave the teaching, but the Baal Shem Tov gave the teaching a second time. Be'achar kach omer HaBaal Shem Tov oid hapam ha'torah kedemes. Then that was the first vision that the Rebbe Rashab saw. This was at the nighttime, I think. The Baal Shem Tov gave him over this Torah. But then the Baal Shem Tov said again, HaTorah kedemes, the previous Torah. The Hoisif, and he added one more point. She'inyan l'shakin shmei shom. What is the idea to make his name rest there? Before we just says publicize godliness there. But how do we publicize godliness? So he says, "Hu mita bracha upasuk tehillim." What a blessing and a verse of Tehillim. That's how you publicize godliness where you are. That means the shakin shmei shom, to make Hashem's name rest over there. So basically, according to the Baal Shem Tov's Torah that we hear, what it means to go to Eretz Yisrael? It means to settle that when you come to the land, you come to the Rotzen, you settle this in Kalim and Mefarsim godliness in the world with a bracha until. Now we have an interpretation. This is Baal Shem Tov. The Magid has a little bit of a different interpretation. But Rabbi Magid, who was Talmidoi Umamale Mekoime Shel Baal Shem Tov, he was the student. He also filled the place of the Baal Shem Tov. Piresh, he explained, V'hoyo kisovoi el ha'oretz. When you want to come to the land, which land is he talking about? He's talking about the Olam Haba. He's talking about the land, and you want to make sure that you possess, that the Olam Haba sticks, that you possess it. So then you must, as he says, you must in everything keep the idea of the spark, not the gashmis. Let's look inside. He says like this. He explained as follows. When you come to the land, Pirush, when you wish to come to the land, which is the supreme land, the land of above, Olam Haba, it is God gives you. We all get a portion in the land in Olam Haba. This is God given. That's what God has given to you. Ki kol Yisrael yesh lem chelek la'olam haba. For all Yidden have a part in the world to come. So this is the Oretz. If you want to reach this. V'yorashto. Yorashto means you want to hold on to it. You want it to be liyorsho Yerushas Olam, to have it an inheritance forever. Normally, when a person is in this world, sometimes he has to do all the mitzvahs. If you fail and you don't do all the mitzvahs or properly, sometimes you have to get reincarnated, a gilgulim, to come down again into this world. But the Pasuk is teaching it. If you want to inherit Olam Haba, so that you don't have to be nisgalgal again into the world, the Yersha Yerushas Olam, in order to inherit it, a eternal inheritance, so you don't have to reincarnate, re-roll, God forbid again. Rak. But you want to settle, the Pasuk says, Yeshiva ilamis v'nitzchis, a eternal, always, continuously. Kocha tisnaig v'tiska. So you have to conduct yourself, and then you will merit that you will be fully in Olam Haba and not have to go through Gilgulim again. What do? The Pasuk tells you, V'lakachto mei reishis. Take from the reishis. Take the level of reishis, which is level of wisdom, in everything of the world. Don't take the leftovers, the physicality, the materialism. Take the beginnings, take the spirituality, take the spark, take the chokhmah, take the wisdom which is in it. Don't get caught up by the lower parts, but take the meireshis. L'kachto meireshis, l'kachto l'tzoyna leimar. Reishis l'kichoscha me'inugei ha'olam. Your first thing that you take from the delights of the world, hazeh, yiyeh meireshis. They should be from the reishis. Sheyah chokhmah. Take from chokhmah. That's the reishis. Shenema reishis chokhmah. As the pasuk says, the Chokhmah is Reishis. The beginning of Chokhmah, Reishis is Chokhmah. Pirush, what does this mean? Shekol inyon ha'olam hazeh murabam nitzutz kodesh ha'chokhmah. In all matters of this world, there's mixed in a holy spark, which is Chokhmah. Chulu. Lechein, and therefore, in every physical, in every pleasures of this world, there is a spark of kedusha. There is chokhmah there. Lochein, therefore, kol likichoscha ba'asiyus yoscha chulu. So anytime you take something physical, anytime you do something, yiyeh hakoil. So everything, ikir hashkachos, what you should be looking for, umagamoscha, and what are you striving? Aloreshis shaba. You should always wonder reshis that's in the physicality. Shia chokhmah hakadusha shaba. That is the holy chokhmah shaboy that is in that item. Don't take the physicality for the physicality, but take it for the reshis, take it for the nitzus, take it for the chokhmah. And that's why it says zeu shekosuf meireshis kolpri meireshis. Not doesn't say reshis the first. But of the Reishis called Pri Hadoma, because you're taking the Hadoma, but you're taking the spark of it. Veloy kol Reishis. Don't take the entire Reishis. Kikulei Gashmius. Because most of it, all of it is really physicality. Hurak sheyesh boy kitzas kedusha. It only has a little bit of kedusha. Shehi Reishis chulu, that is the Reishis. Bezeu shekosuf, and that's what the pasuk says. Meireshis kol pri ha'adama, from the reishis, all the fruits of the earth, which are gashmis. You take from the fruit of Dama, take the reishis. Shehema nitzoitzos shebetoich hatzoimeach. Those are the sparks which are in the tzemeach. What about doimim? So the pasuk says, not only do we need to asher tov, that not only mereshis priadomo, but the pasuk continues asher tovim artzacha. That's the doimim. Also the spark in the doimim. V'loi mibo yishetira levarer mitoichat semeach. Not goes without saying. Not only that you should see to sort out from the tzemeach when you're using tzemeach, use the reshis, use the chokhmah. The pasuk continues, even that which you bring from the land. Pirush, what does it mean, bring the land? Afilu medover shehu artzi is gomer. Even a matter which is completely materialistic. Shehu hadoimen, which is the inanimate. Shehu gashmi yoiser mitzemeach, which is even more physical, more than the growing. Over there too, you should sort out. Okay, so we're talking about Balchai. I'm sorry, we're talking about Semeach. I'm talking about Doimen. What about Balchai? Lohiskir kan hanitzoitze shebetoich Balchai. Over here we don't mention it about the Balchai, the sparks. Mipnei shebekal yuchal aloisam ala kedusha kumeshekosu bekisva rivel zechrein levrocha l'chaya el mabo. Which means that that's very easy to elevate a Kedusha. He doesn't have to say it because that's easy. He's telling you specifically it's harder when it comes to Tzemech and then. And then he says, don't say I'm only warning you. Rak bidvorim gashmim, sheim doimim Tzemech, and Chai, which is not mentioned specifically, not only physical matters, even in spiritual matters, which are words of Torah, you also have to be very careful to do in the proper way. That which God gives you, which is the Torah. Over there too, your intent should be wanted, desirable. Your thought should be clear. B'dibur chashom, and your speech should be whole. Which means, even in Torah matters, she'yinikar b'chol dibur v'dibur hayoytze mipicho, so that in every word and word that comes out of your mouth, you should be able to tell every letter and letter unikudov, and its nikudes, the vowels, the time of and the trop shaboy. That is in every word that he said. That's what the pasuk says. V'samto batene. The word batene is a Rosh Tevis. Kitene is Rosh Tevis. Taimim, that's the trop. The kudes, that's the vowels, and oish is the letters. Sometimes we say tan to, also with the tof. We have many times a chassidus. V'lohiskir kan tagim. There's no tagim. It just says tene. Because the tagim is not expressed. You don't say the tagim, those are just written. But the vowels and the trop and the letters, that's what you express. When you conduct yourself so, in all of them will be the idea you'll take from the beginning level of Chokhmah. Oz yiyah, then will be v'olachta elamokim, you'll go to the place chulu, v'tale hakoyle la kedusha, then you'll elevate everything to kedusha. The gashmi is the tzemeach, the doimim tzemeach, the chai, and even the word of Torah. Everything is done with clarity, with purity, and everything is done in a clear and good way. Then you bring everything to kedusha. This is what Hashem will choose. And this is to rest His name there, meaning that this is the perfect, done everything in the best way. But the pasuk is v'hoya kisavai. What is v'hoya? Shulosh and Simcha Chul. So we have now the interpretation of the Rav Hamagid, how to reach to the level of Olam Haba, and how to stay there, how to inherit it forever, not to have Gilgulim, and how we're supposed to want in everything the Ruchnis, the Nitzus, and also the Torah, and that will bring everything up to the Kedusha. And then Rabbeinu HaZoken, Pirush B'Lekutei Torah Parshas Tovei, and over there in the Kutei Parshas Tovei, he explains the K'moi Sheyesh B'chinas Eretz Yisrael Ba'olam. Just as there is an Eretz Yisrael in the world, Kach Yesh B'Shana, there is an Eretz Yisrael in the year. Once a year we go into Eretz Yisrael, in the year Eretz Yisrael. B'Hud B'Rosh Hashanah, it's Rosh Hashanah. So what do we say? That B'Koidem Lozeh Tzorich Liyas Krisis Bris V'Chulu. Before we go into Eretz Yisrael, whether it is the way the Baal Shem Tov says, or whether it's the way that will run to Hashem or stay in all of these levels, or in Rosh Hashanah, we need to have this Krisus Bris, La'ovrcha B'Bris, as the Rebbe will explain later on. Okay, we'll leave it over here.
Okay. See you then.
Thank you.
Welcome.